Welcome everyone. It is September 30th and let's see, 10:02 Mountain Time. I'm going to try this without my glasses on. I looked at last month's stream and the glare from my reading glasses was pretty atrocious. So we're going to try it without reading glasses today. So bear with me. I've got my giant monitor and I've got the resolution hopefully in a readable state. But the purpose, I think what I'm doing today is reading some news that I found interesting over the last month. I really had intended to do this a little more often than once a month, but, circumstances over September just kind of got in the way and never really got around to it. So maybe I'll get one out next Friday. We'll see. Stay tuned. YouTube reminders will let you know about any of that. And I think most people probably at this point, because I'm doing this so infrequently, are probably watching it after the fact, but that's fine. It's not really the goal is to just kind of get some experience doing this, because I would like to do different sorts of travel shows. I'd like to do some travel shows on the actual sites. So I don't have the setup for that quite yet, but we'll get there. All right, let's start reading some news. And the big news of the week, of course, I think for most people, while you may not, this is more of a just big story. It does impact travel, obviously. It's a hurricane. I'm not going to try to diminish the effects that a hurricane has on humans. People, places, property, of course, are significantly damaged and impacted by this. But I am a travel channel primarily, and so, hurricane's going to have a huge impact on travel. One thing that is probably not very useful if you are traveling, FlightAware is one of the sites that I visit frequently, and it's got what they call a misery map, and it overlays current weather states, and you can see where most of the delays are. Turns out Miami, headed up to the northeast, is where most of the delays in the United States are right now. Let's see, 31 cancellations it looks like so far. Not surprising. I didn't think Miami got impacted too terribly significantly by the hurricane, but maybe I'm not in Miami, so I can't really say. But I like this. This is not really a useful travel tool when you're on the road necessarily. I mean, you could look at it, but if you are on the road in the midst of a travel itinerary, this isn't going to help you. It's more for more informational purposes than anything else. It is interesting to me that you can see hitting South Carolina is the hurricane, and according to weather.com, Hurricane Ian is Ian? Is it Ian or Ian? Ian? I don't know, whatever. Is still category 1 as it's making landfall. So, 85-mile-an-hour winds. It's bigger than any storm I've ever been in. So, still pretty significant. Stay safe out there, and hopefully everybody got away from the coast, because at least what I've been reading is the storm surge is really the biggest impact. Storm surge and flying debris. But people get trapped by the storm surge and end up drowning. It's awful. So anyway, that's enough about the hurricane. Try to stay safe out there, everyone. It's going to be a mess up through the Northeast. And this misery map here for these northeastern airports is just going to grow, I think, as the storm is projected to track up, up into, I think, West Virginia and eventually New York. So it's going to be nasty out there. All right. Now, the big news, some better news, at least as it relates to travel. And this is kind of exciting for me. One of the things that I had intended over this last 2 years was to do more traveling in Canada. I've been to Vancouver. I've been to Victoria Island. But that's kind of it. So I'd like to see a little bit more of the Canadian countryside. I got a friend, Robin, who's up in Edmonton, so maybe I'll head up to Edmonton sometime this year, or anytime now, because there's no restrictions. So starting tomorrow, it is September 30th, Canada will remove all COVID travel restrictions from October 1st. I think I could have gone anyway because of what their requirements were. I think I met the requirements, but I couldn't bring people with me who didn't meet the requirements. I'm just going to leave it at that. So Canada will drop all COVID-19 restrictions for travelers starting tomorrow, October 1st, including the vaccination and masking requirements for flights, trains, the government said on Monday. Like everywhere else that has dropped the requirements, I think they're going to see a huge boost of travelers from the United States. I still think you can't. I should probably check this. I don't know if you can get into the United States unless you're vaccinated or a citizen. So yeah, I'll have to check that. Maybe I'll do that right now. Let's duplicate. I'll just go to the CDC. Hurricane safety tips. It's interesting. It's the first time I've been to the CDC in, I don't know, a month or so. And COVID-19 is not on the front page. Interesting. Let's see. So I got to find some COVID stuff. CDC response. Stories. The numbers. Guidance. Managing visitors, maybe? CDC is working with the WHO, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, you know what? I don't really want to look at this right now. I should have done this before the stream started. Let's do travelers. Travel. International travel. All right. Non-U.S. citizen, non-U.S. immigrants, you must show proof of being vaccinated before you board your flight to the United States. So, if you've been shot, you can visit the United States. So that's still a requirement to get into the U.S. Not so into Canada, so I wonder if that will ever change in the United States. I think most of the world is probably shot by now. At least those people that would want to travel to the U.S. So maybe that's not a big deal. I don't know. All right. Another one. Taiwan to end quarantine for arrivals. Welcome back, tourists. So that's another one. So Taiwan had a mandatory COVID-19 quarantine for arrivals. That's going away. However, you still will need to, let me see, I read this earlier. Arrivals will still need to monitor their health for a 7-day period and take rapid tests, but tourists will be allowed to return. So this article doesn't have the requirements telling me how many tests you have to take. So the rapid tests are pretty simple, straightforward. You swab your nose, it's pretty simple. I've done a couple of those. So yeah, Taiwan is another one that's opening up. I don't know if you want to go to Taiwan at the current time. This is prime time for... Anyway, I'm going to leave my political statements alone. Another one that has been open for a little while, and this is significant for me in particular. I've actually been here. I can't remember the Jewel at Changi. Changi? I always pronounce this wrong. I've been corrected by locals from Singapore more than once. I think it's Changi. I hope that's right. Maybe it's not. Regardless, the Jewel at Changi is pretty sweet. Anyway, I would check that out there. This weekend is the Singapore Grand Prix, and I had hoped to be in Singapore for the race weekend. Obviously, I'm here at my desk, so that didn't work out. But they are, like everywhere else in the world, it looks like they're having problems getting enough staff to handle the demand. I don't really know where everybody went. It's really odd to me that no matter where I go, it seems like there is staffing shortages. And it appears that it is a worldwide phenomena. So whether they had a lot of people in Singapore from other countries, like Malaysia would be my guess, who are working, they went home to Malaysia perhaps and didn't come back. That's very likely. Why other places are having trouble getting people, who knows. Regardless of that, if you go to Singapore, go visit the Jewel at Changi. It's pretty sweet. It's like a big circular shopping mall with this vertical waterfall in the middle. So the waterfall, and there's like some climbing stuff around the waterfall. So I highly recommend it. It's just kind of cool. I think I have some pictures I should pull up, but I didn't do that beforehand. Let me do that real quick. When did I went? I went in 19 before. I went in 19 before COVID really became a problem. I hope I have to move that over here. There's my hotel in Singapore. We'll do a little Singapore tour. Or we won't. Let's get to the Jewel. I'm easily distracted by shiny things. Here's a Ferrari for you. The 2019. Is that Vettel in that one? Perhaps it is. I don't know. He has moved on since then. I promise we'll get there. See, then I'm back at LAX. That's not what I wanted. Maybe I lied. Maybe I didn't take pictures of the Jewel. I swear I did. I probably have video of it only. Anyway, that's enough of that. If I find it, I will post it on my Instagram at Trizity. So go ahead and check that out. Another news story that I find just fascinating, having flown both Spirit and JetBlue, I would never have guessed that Spirit and JetBlue would be likely to merge. If you've flown either of them or both of them like I have, very different experiences. JetBlue has consistently advertised itself as the airline carrier with the most legroom in economy of anyone out there. Spirit is all about low fares and you get packed in. So their economy is actually the smallest in North America, at least, in terms of seat pitch. So the room between the row in front of you and you, it's the smallest. So from that perspective, their core philosophies are significantly different. JetBlue fares are typically a little bit higher than Spirit. Spirit, once you add in baggage and all that stuff with Spirit, seats as well, I don't think they're that much cheaper. That's a bit of a spoiler for my upcoming comparison video of Spirit, Frontier, Allegiant, and Avelo. Anyway, so this to me is an unlikely merger. The benefit obviously is going to be more routes, more slots in the various airports. How that benefits you as a consumer, I don't know. If they adopt the JetBlue model, I think it's naturally got to be more expensive. Because Spirit is less expensive than JetBlue. So much so that Senator Elizabeth Warren, who I don't really care for, I don't really like most politicians. I find that they are more self-serving than serving us as the taxpayers, but she wants the U.S. Department of Transportation to block this merger. I think JetBlue is based probably in her home district, could be, or at least it's in the vicinity. So I did download her letter, and this is the actual letter. I used to read this sort of thing all the time in my previous existence. But she wants them to block it fundamentally because JetBlue, she believes, or they believe, the JetBlue deal is likely to reduce airline competition and harm the public interest. All right. There is another statement in here, which, according to Spirit's own analysis, which it presented to its shareholders in a bid to prevent a hostile JetBlue merger from being approved, a JetBlue transaction would substantially raise fares for consumers. Of course, it would raise the fare because the JetBlue model and the Spirit model are very, very different. So that's kind of a red herring, I guess you'd call that. It will, but when you throw in the baggage fees and all those things, I really don't think it's that significant of a change. Whenever a politician gets involved in a business transaction like this, I always wonder what's in it for her. Again, because JetBlue, I think, is based in the Northeast, this would seem to be a harm to her constituents, so I'm not real sure what her deal is. Let's just say that I'm a little skeptical of her altruistic, taxpayer benefited views. As I said, I'm skeptical of politicians. I just always think that they have some ulterior motive. I don't recall. It's been a while since there's been a big merger, but I don't recall a lot of politicians getting involved with previous mergers. So as I said, I'm just a little skeptical about politicians getting involved in business like this. If you have any comments about that could be a can of worms. Post those below. In a story I reported or read last month, I'm not really a reporter, I'm just kind of reading the news. Boom, Supersonic has, all kinds of press releases, and I think it was on this page. Lots of articles. Anyway, they have deals with United and American. That was a press room. It's a very pretty airplane. It does look like a Concorde that's been updated. The Overture. Very pointy, as you would expect. Mach 1.7. Giant windows? Maybe. I didn't actually look at this last time. So they've got a deal with American and United. Looks like Japan Airlines has jumped on as well. None of which really surprises me. Those are, there's some long haul routes out there. One of the news stories that came out, however, over the last month was Boom Supersonic and RollsRoyce part ways on engine development. That's a bad thing for Boom Supersonic. If Rolls-Royce is your engine supplier and they leave, I don't know that you have to have a pretty powerful engine to get to Mach 1.7. I don't really know what they're going to do moving forward. I don't know that has killed the project quite yet. It's definitely not a good thing. The article down below says that they don't really know who pulled the plug, whether it was Rolls-Royce or Boom. My suspicion is that Rolls-Royce finally figured out that to develop this commercial supersonic engine would probably cost them a large sum of money, and they were better off spending their money on the commercial side of their business rather than probably adapting one of their, I don't know, maybe a Eurofighter Typhoon engine, which at least I think those are Rolls-Royce engines in that. Rather adapting that to a commercial model that has to fly many more cycles before maintenance. Military engines kind of have a built-in maintenance staff, and I think the number of hours between maintenance in a military setting is a lot lower than a commercial setting. So maybe they looked at it and said, I don't think we can do this and still make money on it. Just a guess. I have no other information has come out. This is actually 22 days ago, and I didn't find any updated articles on this. So I think Boom is in trouble. Is kind of the gist of all this. I haven't seen an announcement with a new engine supplier. So if you've got nobody supplying engines, you're in trouble. So they've got time. First flight, I don't think, is till 2029. So maybe they'll find somebody between now and then. Maybe Rolls-Royce will even come back. You never really know. So, all right. Jason, welcome. And David, how are you? Good to see you guys. Just reading the news with since David commented on this once upon a time, with my Gryffindor cup. Courage, determination, and bravery. That sums me up in a nutshell. It's me in a nutshell. All right. Moving on to other news. This is not necessarily travel news. This is kind of personal travel news. Sorry. Hit the mic. I was in Florida over the Labor Day weekend for the second attempt of the Artemis 1 launch. Didn't happen. It was a big bummer. I was kind of disappointed about that. Not surprised. I had a few days in Florida, which is always a nice thing. There was no hurricane when I was there, which was even a better thing. I plan on going back. I would like to go back. I really want to see this thing go off. One of the things I've always kind of missed out on, just because of my age, was the Saturn V rocket. I've seen them on display in a couple different places, and they're fantastic. Would have been really cool to see one actually get launched. So this is I think even more powerful than the Saturn V. So it would be pretty fantastic to see this. So when I was in Florida, a funny story, one of the places I visited to try to scout whether it would be a good viewing location was the Canaveral National Seashore, and they have multiple beach accesses there. And I'm driving down the road, and here we go. I'm going to try this again. I'm going to see if I can find this picture. So the Canaveral National Seashore is south of Smyrna Beach. Is it in here? It's not in there. That's production. Wrong pictures. Anyway, so I'm driving down the road, and there's multiple beach accesses. And nope, it is not in this one. Here we go. See, this is the problem with live TV. let's see. It's going to be in here. It's going to be on my, I think I took it on my phone. Here's a peek behind the curtain. I'm in production for my Florida videos currently. There it is. All right. So I am driving down the road and I come across this sign. Go full screen on that. Warning, you may encounter nude sunbathing within Boardwalk 5. I'm like, really? Really? I don't think that's going to happen. Really? People do that here in Florida? I'm like, well, I should have known better because I actually visited Miami Beach, South Beach a couple years back, and there were a few women who were topless, but just topless. And I'm like, well, it was like a Thursday. So I'm like, there's probably not too many people down on the beach. Anyway, I get I get all the way down to Boardwalk 5, and I'm like, because that's the last boardwalk on the Canaveral National Sea, easy for me to say, seashore. And I get down there, and lo and behold, there are, let's just say, people who I don't think should be completely naked walking around on the beach. I was not going to join the party, and I pretty quickly packed up and left because that's, let's just say I'm shy. That was definitely not my thing. In fact, I think, let me see. Let me go back to my still photos. So I took this picture, and let me go full screen. Right here in the middle, I don't know if hopefully you can see where my mouse is. That is the SLS. You can just about see the orange. And then over here this is the SpaceX facility. This black, that's where they launched the crew missions from. And then this third tower over here on the left, SpaceX is building a duplicate of their rocket facility from New South Padre Island. Or it's not South Padre, but outside of Brownsville, Texas. They're building a duplicate of that here in Florida, which makes sense, so they can launch out of Florida. So I took this picture before I saw the naked people, but everybody you see here on the beach, except for this lady right here, they're all naked, at least partially. This lady has a bikini bottom on, you can see that. But yeah, and I didn't really notice this dude here. He's the one that really startled me, I'll say. Because after I took this picture, I decided, hey, I'll walk down the beach and walk down to see how far I could get, see if I could get closer. And he is in the process of packing up, and he was coming towards the access, and that's when I saw him in all of his glory. I don't know if you can tell, he's not a thin human being, so there was lots of him to see. And anyway, that's why I left. So maybe I'm a prude. I'm not interested. Really not interested. All right. Anyway, so truth in advertising for that little sign there. Anyway, back to this. The hurricane has delayed the next attempt. I think the next attempt is supposed to be sometime in October. I'm still waiting for NASA to state when the next launch attempt is going to be. So I'm really looking forward to that date announcement. I have some complications. My baseball team is about to qualify for the playoffs, and if they play past the first round, I'm going to try to get up to Seattle and watch a game. So that could complicate me going to Florida to see a launch attempt, but The next launch attempt will be the third attempt. Third time the charm for NASA. I kind of doubt it. I think they're going to I think it's going to be the fifth or sixth when they finally get it up into space. But, who knows? In some less good rocket news, this again is not travel. This is just kind of more of my personal interest, and I thought I'd share this.
Capsule was able to escape successfully.
I don't know if anybody saw this, but Blue Origin, which is Jeff Bezos' rocket company, was doing a uncrewed launch when the main first stage of the rocket had a problem of some sort. And the good news about this, the booster stage, I guess, had the problem. The safety systems detected the problem, and the crew capsule was ejected from the rocket before it could be destroyed. That's the good news. Everything worked properly in terms of the safety systems. Bad news is the main stage was broken, and the FAA will be observing the investigation at Blue Origin. It's not clear to me how the FAA really gets involved in this, but so we shall see what happens with this going forward. So kind of a bummer. Anytime a rocket has problems, especially one that has had people on it in the recent past, get a little worried about it. That's, I think, why the FAA is involved. They do regulate all rocket launches, which there was a big delay in South Texas because the FAA was doing some sort of a review of SpaceX.
The capsule will stabilize. That's looking like a successful execution for the crew capsule and escape system.
Couple chats. David asks, with Virgin Atlantic joining an alliance, does that make it more valuable to you as a traveler? I don't really, honestly, David, I don't know that the alliances, I think the only time I really notice that there is an alliance effect is kind of when I'm doing a booking. For example, my recent trip to London, I booked that with Delta. I really wanted to get the Delta miles, not the Virgin Atlantic miles. So while it was a Virgin Atlantic flight, everything was booked via Delta. So I got Delta miles out of that. That's really the only time I've really noticed the alliance effect, if anything. It provides more options for me as a traveler. Beyond that, I don't know that I've seen any significant benefits other than just more options. I think more options is always a good thing as a traveler. I don't know that I think a lot of the alliance things like that probably don't lower costs. If you are offered a Virgin Atlantic flight via Delta, I think it's going to be. I think the price could be determined together. I don't really want to call it in collusion with each other, but I think they are required, or I think they would be expected to be sharing their pricing models. If they're sharing their pricing models, I think then the price probably is not going to be less. It's probably going to be more.
To keep our payloads safe during an off-nominal situation.
Maybe.
Safety is our highest value at Blue Origin. It's why we built so much redundancy into the system.
Insight as an actual airline employee.
For today. We'll share more information about the flight.
I don't think that's probably, in the end, I don't know that a lot of these alliances are probably good for the traveler, because I think competition probably goes down as a result.
Space. In 2016, the European Space Agency's Rosetta spacecraft purposely crashed into a comet.
Jason, I saw one shuttle launch from the air, not sure which one, but it was
Comet
incredible.
67P, a rubber duck-shaped spacecraft that orbits
I'm assuming
the sun
that's when you were in the air looking out the window.
Rosetta spent the next 2 years tagging along with the comet as it traveled through the solar system.
That would be incredible. I've seen a couple pictures of the
Rosetta
space shuttle clearing
into the
like a cloud deck in Florida.
That's what happened on this
day. I never know if that was a real picture or just a Photoshop. But yeah, it always looked amazing. I'm kind of disappointed I never got to see a shuttle launch. I visited, three. I don't remember how many space shuttles are left. I visited 3 of them. One at the Udvar-Hazy Center, one at Kennedy Space Center in Florida, and one in California, and I've lost track of which is which. So, yeah, confirmation from the air. That would be pretty amazing to see any launch from the air. I get excited when I see another airplane while I'm on a flight, so seeing a rocket launch while I was in flight, that would be pretty amazing. So, all right, last story, and this is more of a. I found this interesting. Aviation's all-electric Alice aircraft completes its first flight. Aviation, hopefully that's right. So this is only a couple days ago, but it's an all-electric aircraft, which some plane spotter looking pictures going on here. Couple things I want to point out about this at this point, until if we could get an unlimited big battery that didn't weigh 1 million pounds, it would be a boon for this sort of thing. Currently, it's got a 440 nautical mile range and a 16,500 pound takeoff weight. Jason's gonna do the homework for me. Yeah, I'd appreciate that, because Jason's gonna look into pricing with alliances, and do a little investigation. He might have some inside baseball he can share with me at a later date, and I will pass what I can along, because it is interesting. It never really occurred to me. I think skipping the electric airplane story here for just a moment. With Elizabeth Warren all concerned about the consumer competition aspect of it, it would seem like alliances would be an impact in that. I don't know if you have to have regulatory approval to join an alliance. Alaska Airlines joined One World earlier this year. I'm in the Northwest, so I get all these Alaska commercials talking about them joining One World and all the benefits it has, and I think they advertise the benefits as route diversity. I think Qatar Airlines with the World Cup coming up is something that Alaska has advertised, because you can use the alliance connections to get to Qatar, but book on Alaska, I think. So anyway, it's more options, but I'm not sure it's a price benefit. All right. Back to Alice, the electric airplane. First made its debut at the 2019 Paris Air Show. It can accommodate 9 passengers and 2 pilots. I'd have to do some math. 9 passengers and 2 pilots. Average weight of an American human. I don't know how much cargo that would actually leave. 440 nautical mile range. That's not much at this point. I think that has got to be one of the big development items. It's a pretty cool looking airplane. Looks like a small business airplane, bigger than a Cessna, kind of King Air size. Looks like to me, really low profile, not very tall off the ground, and 2 electrically powered props at the back. So anyway, I found that to be an interesting story that just kind of popped up on my radar. The electric car. I never thought I would see an electric car that was actually successful, and Tesla has shown the way, and now everybody is starting to try to eat Tesla's market share. I see tons of Teslas here in my little area of Idaho. I think a lot of these people are moving probably from the West Coast. I think they're visiting and loving it here, and then they move here and bring their Teslas along. There is one Tesla, I don't know what they're called, supercharger here in Boise. My guess is that there's going to be many, many more. I can't imagine how long it takes to charge that at your house. Anyway, so maybe electric vehicles are going to be electric airplanes within my lifetime. That would be pretty interesting. The thing I think that most people forget about electric cars and electric vehicles, and I hate to be the naysayer, but I did used to work at the power company, and until there is a better source of power than carbon-based fuels, electric vehicles are always going to have a problem, because you really need a cheaper source of electricity, like a nuke. I know that's a bad word for a lot of people, but it is what it is. Using natural gas power plants as your main source of power, I don't think that's going to be sustainable. You have to do a lot more fracking, or burn a lot more coal, which we still have a lot of that. So, and those are both kind of eventually going to be bad options. So pushing everybody to an electric vehicle is great, but you got to have a good way to charge those electric vehicles. And I don't think the energy density from a solar panel is quite there yet. So I think we've got a bit to go on the electric front. See, David and Jason have a couple more. Electric seaplanes in development. That'd be cool. In Vancouver, that would make a lot of sense, because Vancouver has just tons of commuter routes. My friend Robin, who took a little commuter seaplane up in Vancouver, it's a pretty cool video. Linking cities to... Oh, okay. And Jason says... decrease in ticket prices when linking cities to each other. Okay. Cool. Right on. Well, I think I've gotten over the chats. I think I've been way too close to my mic. I'm looking at my mic levels now. They're all red. Sorry about that if I've been blowing your ears out. Yeah, I think I am done for the morning. 45 minutes. It's a lot longer than I thought I was going to go. If you have any particular stories that have come across your news that you are interested in hearing about, a little more detail, go ahead and pass those on. Jason, the larger the load, the cheaper the ticket. Bringing airlines together is beneficial where you have a city that's underserved, but... Oh, yeah, okay. I would say that I live in an underserved city, but it's getting better, so... brings the ticket prices down. Right on. That's cool. Ultimately, lower tickets is good, especially in this age of rising gas prices. So, I think gas prices are actually starting to go down a little bit, which is a nice thing to see. So, I don't, being a kind of home-based business, I guess. No, I don't see a lot of I don't fill up a whole lot as much as I used to when I was commuting regularly for my engineer job. But anyway, that's all I know for today. I want to thank Jason and David for jumping in and giving me lots of comments. And if you're watching this after the fact, you can still comment and ask me questions. So with that, I think I am going to sign off and wish you and all of yours happy travels and have a great weekend.